Mortgage chaos is here. Let's have a look. Hello everyone, Florian here and welcome to another episode of HeiseSays. Grab your stein of coffee. Let's have a look at an article written by Tarek Brooker for news.com.au discussing, well, the mortgage chaos as it's been titled. So let's have a look at this one, guys, because for regular viewers, I'm a little skeptical about the headlines for anything we would see on the news. If it has a negative spin, that's done to get attention. And of course, I'm looking at it. Haven't read an article of his for a while. Let's see what he has to say. So new data has revealed just how many Australian households are struggling to keep afloat. And sadly, something is going to have to give. And I wonder, there was an article just recently about the decade high number of foreclosures in New South Wales. It's just because, it is a decade high, they're right there, but times have been so good for so long that a small change is enough to blow figures out of the water. We've had it pretty good here in Australia, guys. So in the world of economics and finance, Australian households' relationship with debt is almost legendary. Yeah, no, he's right, we're right up there. While the US and a long list of other advanced economies have each been forced to confront their extremely high household debt levels and pay them down relative to incomes, Australia is one of a handful that has not seen its households meaningfully deleverage in recent decades. Well, if we look at the US, what happened there, particularly with the amount of home loans that were provided to people, anyone with a pulse could get a loan. And that laid the groundwork for a lot of the mess that happened. But over here, we're such a bloody nanny state, regulated to the hilt with all the buffers and additional onerous pain they put on us. We're not going to get as bad as the US, but some people are going to suffer. Despite the pile of mortgage debt held by households, spending the overwhelming majority of the last 30 years growing strongly, there are several avenues of consumer credit where Australians have pulled back dramatically: credit card debt and personal loans, which is good. I take the Dave Ramsey approach to credit cards. According to figures from the Reserve Bank, the level of outstanding credit card debt accruing interest peaked a little over $37 billion in 2011. While the level of overall credit card debt would not peak until March 2018, this does not provide an entirely accurate picture of the debt load faced by households, since it includes purchases made with the intention of being paid off before they start accruing interest. Meanwhile, the overall aggregate monthly value of personal loans being written peaked in April 2016 of a total of $2.46 billion. The figure has not been eclipsed until March of this year. But recently something has changed. Credit card debt growth began to surge. Based on the level of outstanding debt accruing interest. At the same time, the value of new personal loans being written each month hit a new all-time high on a seasonally adjusted basis. So what is happening? Are people turning to credit cards, turning to personal loans to make ends meet? I wonder if that's what we're seeing here. So, there are always going to be some idiots out there. There will always be a percentage of the community that are going through the process of learning financial lessons the hard way, which many of us have had to do in the past. There was another article I saw recently about a teacher who'd lost $130,000 to one of those online fake AI scams, pretending to be some movie star that invested in some stupid thing. So I don't think teaching financial literacy at our schools is going to work. A sizable proportion of households finding themselves in significant financial stress is not a new thing, with the number of households in mortgage and rental stress rising strongly since the pandemic began. According to figures from DFA, as of August, 76.9% of households who rent were in stress, along with 50.1% of those with mortgages. DFA defines mortgage and rental stress in cash flow terms, whereby a household is in stress if its spending exceed its income. Now, this is Martin North's approach to it. I think that's a very smart way of dealing with it. If you're spending more than is coming in. Now, if you have, it depends on how your cash flow works. If you're getting a monthly income or a weekly or fortnightly income and you're constantly spending more than is coming in, then you're in trouble. If you've got a business and you get paid maybe every quarter or 45 days from the end of month, there'll be periods when you'll spend more money's going out than more money's coming in. You just got to balance it over the year. So I'm wondering if the subtleties of that situation is captured in the polls or surveys that DFA does. DFA Principal Martin North recently noted that despite the implementation of the Stage 3 tax cuts and other government support programs, subsidies and various Queensland subsidies, mortgage stress continues to hover near all-time highs. When broken down by state and territory, the highest level of mortgage stress is South Australia, where 54.0% of borrowing households are in stress, followed by 51.5% of households in Tasmania. Now, I'd like to see the sample size that they're getting for these things. Let me know in the chat, guys, if you've ever participated in one of these polls. I think Rachel... who's that mob that has their own unemployment figures? Rachel did a phone poll with them once. At the lower end of things, ACT has the lowest level of mortgage stress at 39.9%, followed by the NT at 42.6%. In terms of rental stress, New South Wales holds the highest at 82.9%, followed by the ACT of 80.7%. I mean, these are based on his measurement. You've got 82.9% of renters in New South Wales have more cash flow going out than coming in. That seems insane. That really seems insane. Could it be that bad? Because that's not sustainable by any measure. At the more positive end, 30.5% of households in Northern Territory are in stress, followed by 66.5% of those in South Australia. These numbers seem crazy. They seem crazy. 80% of renters in New South Wales. I think this is the two-speed economy we're seeing here. Credit card debt. On a rolling quarterly basis, the level of growth in credit card balances accruing interest recently hit its highest level since October 2005, growing by 5.9% in the quarter through to the end of August. I remember when credit card debt was going down. Remember that in 2020? I was so happy. So happy to see it crashing down. I wonder how many people took out their super and used it to pay off debt. Used it to get rid of the credit card debt, to get more control. You want to get rid of credit card debt. You don't need a credit card to live. You can get one of those Visa or whatever MasterCard debit cards for your online purchases. That's what I use. You don't need a credit card. I think I still have one. I got a $500 one under the company's name that I just haven't been able to get rid of. I don't use it, but I haven't been able to get rid of because both Rachel and I need to go to the bank together, and that's a real pain. So don't tell Dave Ramsey, he'd be angry at me. Much of the growth in outstanding balances occurred in August, during which Australians expanded their credit card debt by over $640 million for the month. While there can be a high degree of seasonality to credit card debt, when comparing August with the same month of previous years, August 2024 marked the strongest growth in balances since the heyday of credit card debt growth in 2005. I mean, that's a sign of trouble. That is a sign of trouble. If you're not making cash flow, you take a cash advance. How many people would do that? Oh, yeah, just transfer some money off the credit card, throw it on the account, pay those bills, worry about it later. You don't want to get into that trap. You do not want to get into that trap. Personal loans. According to figures from the ABS, in August, households took out a record of $2.74 billion in new fixed-term personal loans. This figure represented a 61.6% increase on the same period in 2019 and a 76.7% increase on the monthly average during the first year of the pandemic. This surge in lending arguably represents the largest and most significant change in the course of personal loan lending since records began in 2002. So I don't like that. I mean, Tarek is making some good points looking at this data. This is showing you people are, well, I don't know, maybe people are in such a good mood they're taking out personal loans to go on holiday, buy electric cars, or other stupid shit, I don't know. With new personal lending hitting new record highs in 5 of the last 6 months' worth of data, it appears clear that a further expansion in this type of lending may be on the cards. The takeaway. The restraint of households surrounding growth in traditional forms of consumer credit exhibited in recent years running up to the pandemic appears to have drawn to a close, at least for the time being. But what is the driving force behind this shift? Well, the answer is a challenging one to quantify. The evidence we do have from the likes of DFA, Finder, and others suggests that it's highly plausible that households in financial stress are playing a significant role in the recent surge in consumer credit growth. Well, here's a question, guys. Hang on one sec. Sorry, I've still got this lingering cough after getting sick. A mate of mine had the same thing. He said it took 3 weeks to get over. Now, the banks should be able to tell us what's happening. If people are taking cash advances to transfer the money to pay other debts, the banks should have that data. We should be able to see that. If they're just using it to spend money on consumer goods, maybe times are good. Maybe they're busy. And they're using their credit cards to buy things, toys, or new things. Maybe the stress of the last few years have dissipated and times are going a bit better. It depends on what sector you're in, who you're talking to as well as your perspective. And these Finder polls, guys, the sample size is not that big. It's like 1,000 people, 1,200 people. In the words of Finder home loan expert Richard Whitten, millions of mortgage holders have managed to manage rate hikes so far, but they're now facing severe financial strain as their savings and emergency funds dry up. Housing is increasingly becoming a major source of stress for Australians, with many struggling to keep afloat. With tight rental markets increasingly tipped to remain for the long term, and a full 0.25% rate cut not fully priced in until March 2025, the financial stress of households are under appears set to continue. Taking on consumer credit in the form of personal loans and credit cards provides scope for the households to keep juggling its financial responsibilities for a time, but that does not last forever. The big question on the minds of many Australian households is what runs out first, the current challenging conditions or the ability to sustainably endure them. Let's have a chat about this one, guys. So, what do you think, everyone? What are you seeing out there in the day-to-day? I think in many regards, it depends on the circles that you're in. But people won't let on if they're struggling or if they're doing really bad. You know, how much of it is smoke and mirrors? You're going to have a lot of people that bought during the mania of the pandemic period or bought recently, or bought under the assumption that the RBA wasn't going to raise rates. And, well, we saw what happened there. Maybe they borrowed right to the edge, and the plan was to really hit it hard over a couple of years until the RBA lifted rates up. And she'll be right, mate. So this is certainly some data to keep an eye on, to seeing what people are happening. I'd like to see what the credit card spending is actually going on. I'll have to look it up, see if we can get any cash advance data. Because how else are you going to use these things to pay loans? I mean, maybe that's the worst side. Maybe they're just putting food on the credit card, all these other expenses, and doing everything else at the mortgage. This is why it's worth being cheap sometimes. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching. I'll see you next time. Bye for now.